News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Karen Moscow.
Karen, the Walt Disney Company's decision to take ABC's Jimmy Kimmel Live off the air continues to make waves. The late-night show was suspended indefinitely after the comedian joked about Republicans' reaction to conservative activist Charlie Kirk's death. Now, President Trump says the Federal Communications Commission should look into the licenses of broadcast networks that are too critical of him.
When you have a network and you have evening shows and all they do is hit Trump, that's all they do. If you go back, I guess they haven't had a conservative on in years or something, somebody said. But when you go back and you take a look, all they do is hit Trump. They're licensed. They're not allowed to do that. They're an arm of the Democrat Party.
President Trump spoke aboard Air Force One. He has suggested that NBC should fire its late-night hosts Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers next. Fallon addressed Jimmy Kimmel's suspension on last night's Tonight Show.
This morning, I woke up to 100 text messages from my dad saying, "I'm sorry they canceled your show." I go, "That's not me. That's Jimmy Kimmel."
Jimmy Fallon says Kimmel is a decent, funny, and loving guy, and he hopes he comes back. Sources tell Bloomberg News Disney executives met with Kimmel last night to discuss the future of his show. They say the soonest it could return to the air is this Monday.
Well, we want to turn to the latest now, Nathan, on U.S.-China relations. President Trump's call with Chinese President Xi Jinping will be the first direct engagement between the two leaders since June. The future of TikTok is expected to top the agenda. Bloomberg's Amy Morris has a preview from Washington.
Negotiators from both countries reached a framework deal earlier this week to preserve the U.S. operations of TikTok under a national security law. President Trump says there's value in TikTok, and he doesn't want to give away value.
We're speaking to President Xi to see if we can finalize something on TikTok because there is tremendous value, and I hate to give away value, but I like TikTok. It helped get me elected.
Xi and Trump are also expected to discuss a tariff truce after tit-for-tat tariffs earlier this year spooked the markets. The call is a watershed moment for both sides and will be watched closely for any indication on whether Trump and Xi agree to hold their first in-person meeting since Trump returned to office. In Washington, Amy Morris, Bloomberg Radio.
All right, Amy, thank you. And the call is scheduled to happen at 9 a.m. Wall Street time.
And that call, Karen, comes just a day after President Trump's historic second state visit to the UK. He signed a new partnership on technology that includes more than $300 billion in bilateral investments from the likes of Microsoft and OpenAI. And at a joint news conference with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, the president expressed disappointment over the war in Ukraine.
The one that I thought would be easiest would be because of my relationship with President Putin, but he's let me down. He's really let me down.
The president also showed mild disagreement with Prime Minister Starmer over the war in Gaza. President Trump says he does not support Starmer's decision to recognize a Palestinian state at the UN General Assembly next week.
Meanwhile, Nathan, U.S. law enforcement is building a profile on suspected Charlie Kirk shooter Tyler Robinson. That includes his use of President Trump's name as a pseudonym on Valve's Steam video game platform. Sources say the Secret Service has joined the investigation into the shooting, even though Kirk was not under the agency's protection. And Turning Point USA, the organization Charlie Kirk founded to mobilize young conservatives, says Kirk's wife, Erica, will serve as his next CEO.
Back in Washington, Karen, the Trump administration is asking the Supreme Court to allow him to remove Fed Governor Lisa Cook. We get more from Bloomberg Economics correspondent Michael McKee.
Basically, they are refiling the same cases they filed in district court and then at the U.S. Appeals Court, arguing that the president has the unreviewable right to fire anybody for cause, and cause is whatever he deems it to be, which the district court judge rejected, but the appeals court didn't address that.
Bloomberg's Mike McKee. President Trump has cited allegations of mortgage fraud. Cook denies any wrongdoing. She remains at the Fed after lower courts blocked her ouster.
Let's turn to the markets now, Nathan, where stocks sit at records as we close out the trading week. The Dow, S&P 500, NASDAQ, and Russell 2000 all begin the session at all-time highs. It's a rare feat that's occurred on just 25 other days this century. Aaron Kennan is CEO of Clear Harbor Asset Management.
Certainly, valuations are not cheap. We're trading at sort of top quartile levels in most equity indices, and yet we also know that elevated valuations do not always or never really augur bear markets. Usually, there's some economic shock that ensues.
Clear Harbor Asset Management's Aaron Kennan. It's the first time since November 2021 that all four major benchmarks closed together at all-time highs.
Karen, shares of FedEx are moving higher. They're up more than 5% in early trading. The parcel service reinstated its profit and sales forecast. It says revenue will grow by 4 to 6% in the current fiscal year. That topped Wall Street estimates. FedEx also says it expects $1 billion hit from trade volatility this year due to President Trump's tariffs and the loss of a key exemption for low-value goods.
And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Karen Moscow.
I'm Nathan Hager, and this is Bloomberg.